Welcome back into I'm Bored, Why the Hell Not, Episode 2, where we promise no Harry's commercials. Erectile dysfunction, TBD. Let's start with the big topic of the day, and that is local TV and Frank Boal saying yesterday that he's going to retire after some 41 years in the business, 36 of them right here in Kansas City. First of all, kudos and congratulations to Frank Boal, one of the classiest guys in the business, one of the classiest guys you'll ever be around, a great friend to all who knew him, and a great broadcaster. As he leaves, though, at the end of June, what happens to sports television as we know it here in Kansas City? Well, first of all, let's discuss what is sports television as we know it here in Kansas City. Starting at the bottom of the list, for me, that is Channel 9. Channel 9 has a former news anchor that apparently still was under contract, so they just shifted him to the news desk. Karen Kornacki's been there forever, but doesn't really bring a lot to the table. And they still do have Lynn Dawson that does things during the football season. But basically, Channel 9 doesn't seem to care much about sports, so I can't really care much about Channel 9 sports. Right behind them, or right above them, I guess I should say, is Fox 4. Steady, Jason Lamb and Al Wallace, steady there. They do their thing, they do their sports, they move on. Again, no big flash, but at least a sports presence on Channel 4. Up next, Channel 5, I'll move them up to second on the list because they did at least have a commitment to a Sunday evening show. Now, a lot of things are changing there, so we'll see where the future brings. And then that brings us to Channel 41, who made a commitment a couple of years ago, first by bringing in Jack Harry and then behind him Frank Boal, that they were willing not only to embrace local sports, but to embrace opinion in sports. Say what you want about the failed attempt at the 38th Spot show that they had on the evenings and Jack Smack, but at least they showed a commitment to sports and showed a willingness to have opinion involved in sports. Frank was able to take that with his Sunday Sound Off show, which gives you opinions on the items of the day as opposed to just a couple of minutes of highlights. So I applaud Channel 41 for having a commitment to local sports. Hopefully that will continue once Frank leaves. Of course, the other big sports news, media news, is ESPN today letting go hundreds of different people. ESPN simply got too big. They bought too many rights. They paid too much for those rights. They had to have people to cover all the sports that they had the rights to. And now they simply can't afford it. With more and more people turning away from cable and cutting the cord, simply the money isn't there to continue to pay the rights fees to all the colleges and to all the leagues and also pay talent. Well, the check's already written and the contracts are signed for the leagues and for the colleges, and ESPN needs that programming, so it is talent that ends up paying the price. Trust me, I know a little bit about this on the local side. But how do we move forward from that when it comes to ESPN, and how does that affect us locally? Well, one of the ways that ESPN got in trouble was rights fees, and following suit were all the local baseball networks. One team that has not yet gotten the huge local baseball deal is your Kansas City Royals. The Cardinals got a $1 billion deal a couple of years ago. A lot of people thought with the Royals' rating success since the World Series, they would be able to get that kind of number. Well, with ESPN having the trouble it has, and with a lot of other regional sports networks having a hard time paying for these exorbitant rights fees, the bubble may have burst like the housing bubble did a decade ago, and the Royals may end up being on the bad end of this and maybe never get that mega TV rights deal and therefore not have money to compete with a lot of other teams in Major League Baseball. And finally today, as we're talking about the Royals, the last thing to get into is the balk. A lot of talk about the balk today after Danny Duffy got called for one yesterday, lost his cool a little bit, and then lost his command and couldn't get things back together. Heard Sorin on his show today saying just get rid of the balk. It's kind of there to help with stolen bases, which is kind of an afterthought in today's game anyway. A couple of problems with that though. One, what's the guy behind me in the stadium going to scream every time the guy steps up? Balk! Balk! It's never a balk, but that guy always thinks it is. You know who he is, the guy 2 rows behind you. But more importantly, what are we going to do if we get rid of the balk? Is it going to be pump fakes every time a pitcher's getting ready to pitch and somebody is trying to balk? Oh! Or he goes through the full windup, holds the ball, then looks back. You've got to have some kind of penalty there to keep the pitcher from being able to totally try to fake out the runner. So the balk has to stay. Is it an obscure rule? Yes. Is it pretty poorly written? Yes. Is there way too much judgment? Probably so. But there has to be at least something to allow the runner to get a lead and maybe try to steal a base. Otherwise, you might as well have softball rules and have the runner lead off or have no lead off and just start every at-bat with a guy standing on first base, second base, third base with no leadoff. So there has to be a balk, even though it didn't go the Royals' way last night. There has to be a rule. Yes, it's ambiguous. Maybe it needs tweaking, but there still does have to be a balk rule. Hey, we've made it to 2 episodes. I'm bored. Why the hell not? We'll see if we make it 3 tomorrow.